the Egyptian media and the Arab media was were full of lies about what happened on October 7. No one called it a massacre. No one said that it was targeting civilians. They were saying that it's only a clash between Israeli soldiers and Hamas militants, which is happening every now and then already. So at the beginning, like, I didn't pay much attention to what was going on. I said, okay, it's just another clash. But soon after, I was invited to a video conference organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Defense, where about 300 or so of Arab researchers and journalists were attending and were invited as well, and were attending from all over the Arab world, from all over the Arab countries. And they showed us what really happened on October 7th. They showed us real videos from the houses, from the streets, even from the mobile phones of the militants of Hamas terrorists. And I was so shocked and so offended by these lies, especially for what happened to the women. You know, I very much related to that. And I thought, like, someone should stand up and speak up about this and refute these lies in the Arab media and tell the truth. So I went on and used my social media platforms. I have a good following there. So I just told the truth. I said, our media is lying, and here is the truth. This is what happened on that day. And of course, like, a horrible backlash was raised against me. Because on one side, the Islamists were very angry that I supported, I condemned Hamas. And on the other side, the Egyptian state, the deep state in Egypt, the establishment, were very angry that I said I support Israel in its war on Hamas. So I ended up being targeted by two big groups and powerful groups. And unfortunately, I got to a point that it was impossible to resist them or to protect myself in these circumstances, and I had to leave Egypt.
So did you have to go into hiding? What was the actual response that you made? What was the decision that you were having to make for your own safety?
Of course, at the beginning, first, I thought, like, the danger is coming only from the side of the Islamists, which is very expected for me because I fight against them all my life. All my work is mainly against them, Islamists, extremists, and so it's expected for them to attack me. So I contacted people in the Egyptian authorities, I mean, like state security and other authorities in Egypt, whom I know because of my work. Like leading a think tank in Egypt. So I told them, like, there is serious threat. People are going to my mother's house looking for me. The Salafists, the radicals, they want to punish me. They are sending me death threats. I need your protection. But the answer was very shocking, was, we will not protect you. We are not ready to do that because you made a big mistake. And this big mistake is that you said you support Israel. And I was shocked, of course, when I heard this from the officer I was talking with. And because, like, I can't really believe, like, this person did not mind seeing me being killed by some fanatic in the street just because I said I support Israel. And despite the fact that we already have peace treaty with Israel and a history of more than 7 years of very fruitful cooperation on the economic and even military levels with Israel. So I was shocked, really. This was the moment when I realized, okay, something really bad is going to happen to me. So I went on hiding in my own apartment in Cairo. It's away from my family house. And like, I tried not to communicate with people at all, but just the next day, the next morning, a lawyer who's very close also to the Egyptian state, like, filed a legal claim against me at the public prosecutor's office, accusing me of espionage and committing high treason. At that moment, I knew, okay, like, being hiding here is not, or being in Egypt in general is going to end up in a very tragic way. I have to do something. So my initial thought was to go to Turkey because I was having a fellowship program there that was going to start soon, an academic fellowship program with one of the universities there. So I thought, okay, I can go early for a few days earlier and hide there and so. But the surprise was that on that same day I was planning to travel, I received a letter from Turkey, from this academic fellowship program, saying that they canceled my fellowship, simply because, again, I'm supportive of Israel, and I said Hamas is Turkey now is like blindly supporting Hamas, and so of course the only place I thought I should come to, I said, okay, so I should look for a Western country, I just don't want to say where I am right now. So I looked for places in Western countries, and I immediately like started moving on and getting away from where I've been. But this shows you like how serious the response was. Like, it was not only the Egyptian government, but even the Turkish government are refused to have me as a fellow, which is, it's a big, like, I didn't expect, like, saying the truth, saying I believe that I am the one on the right side. I'm saying the right thing. I'm not saying the lies. And despite that, I'm seen in my country and in my region as a threat to their national security, while the terrorists and the many radicals in the Egyptian and Arab street who are cheering for these terrorists are not seen as a threat. This is irony, actually. I think what Hamas did, this massacre, the October 7 attacks, created a momentum for radical Islamists in the region. For a while, we've seen these radical Islamists have been pushed under the ground by Arab states who looked at them as threats. We saw, for example, the fight, or how the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia and Bahrain coordinated to fight against the Muslim Brotherhood in the past few years. We've seen how Israel and Egypt have coordinated to fight against Hamas in Sinai in the past few years as well. So this coordinated pressure on political Islamism in the region and fighting terrorism, and so succeeded in pushing radical Islamists under the ground. What Hamas did created a momentum for these radical Islamists to return back to the surface and lead the public opinion under the claim that they are speaking in the name of the Palestinian cause. This so-called Palestinian cause, has been used for decades by dictators in the region, by the Islamists, for several reasons. Dictators used this Palestinian cause to distract people from their internal problems, economic and political issues. On the other side, Islamists used this to recruit supporters and to claim that we need more fighters to fight against the Israelis and liberate Al-Aqsa, liberate Al-Aqsa, all these slogans. So they very well, cleverly used this, and now they are using this again. But what really enabled Islamists, radical Islamists, this time to lead the public opinion is that the dictators, the leaders in the region, are bending to them. They refuse to stand up against them this time. Take Egypt's case, for example. Egypt has been fighting Hamas for years, and Israel has been on the side of Egypt all the time in this fight, including like allowing the Egyptian troops to come very close to the Israeli borders, and even Israeli military helping with the Egyptian military in airstrikes and so on terrorists in Sinai. So despite that, Egypt, which has always labeled Hamas as terrorist organization, the Egyptian leadership all of a sudden, after this happened recently, the October 7 and the wars that happened after that, changed their rhetoric, saying that Hamas is a resistance movement. They are doing something good or so. And we've seen even the Egyptian president, who's known for fighting against Islamists, like making big conferences just to appear like a champion of the Palestinian cause. Of course, this has a political dimension because these dictators, like the Egyptian president, Jordanian leadership, or the Jordanian king, and so on, and others, even in the Gulf, and so they think that they cannot challenge the street on this now. They are too scared to challenge the street because they are already weak in their positions as dictators. Because of their economic problems and political oppression and so on. So they don't want to challenge this. So actually they decide like to bend with the rhetoric in the street. And that's one of the reasons why I think, for example, they choose to attack people like me, not only in Egypt, but in all over the Arab region who spoke up against Hamas. So they appear like, okay, you see, we are very sympathetic with the Palestinians and so.
So they're scared to speak up against Hamas and say exactly what this terror organization stands for and does. You're not scared. You have the courage to do this. How have you maintained that courage? And has there been at any point, any time where you thought, what on earth am I doing here? I'm putting myself at too much risk.
Oh, actually, I believe very much in what I'm doing. I believe very much that I'm on the right side of the equation, that I'm doing the right thing. And also, like what I have seen in the massacre videos makes me feel responsible. Like I felt the responsibility that I have to stand up for the Jewish people. And among my Arab and Muslim fellows who are practicing so much anti-Semitism against them. I have seen how evil Hamas is with my own eyes, even when they were in Egypt, when they were targeting our soldiers in Sinai, how they don't care even about this Palestinian cause they are singing all the time. Actually, their only concern is their Islamic caliphate. So I know how bad these Islamists are. So I thought like someone should speak up, and I thought I can be this one. And I really don't regret it at all. And if I was put in this situation again and I have the choice, I will do it again, definitely, because it's no one with like minimum conscience can tolerate what happened or accept seeing women being raped, children being kidnapped and killed, people, civilians, innocent civilians in their homes being attacked, and just tolerate this because they are not Arabs or they are not Muslims, they are Jewish, so they deserve what they are getting, you know. I don't accept that. I don't accept that. And I will keep like fighting against this extremist rhetoric in my region till the very last day of my life.
And how certain are you that Israel's military operation in Gaza is the only way to defeat terrorists like Hamas?
You know, it depends on what we mean by defeating defeating Hamas, because if it means eliminating Hamas altogether, I don't think the military operation will succeed in that. Like I think the main goal of the military operation will be to make sure that Hamas will not become a threat in the future. Because unfortunately, we've seen from other examples of terrorist organizations in the region, in Iraq and Syria and so, and even Al-Qaeda and so, the terrorist organization does not disappear, does not fully disappear. They go under the ground and they come back later on in different names, under different names. So this could happen also with Hamas, but the goal of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, should be to make sure that Hamas becomes too weak to come back. This is one channel. This should be parallel, like the military activity is one channel. Military activity should be paralleled with another activity, like the diplomatic activity, which should mobilize Arab states and the international community to back Israel in this war, to back Israel by ensuring that Hamas does not receive funding from the humanitarian aid that is provided now to the people in Gaza, to make sure that the civilians in Gaza are not used as human shields by Hamas, to make sure to open the borders for the Gazan people to seek refuge in other countries like Egypt or Jordan or other countries. So Israel needs to work more on this, but unfortunately, like all the tensions that are now rising with the Arab countries is also a bit concerned. So this is the diplomatic channel, the military channel, and there is also a war that is going on that is very, very important, and Israel needs to work on, which is a media war. Unfortunately, Israel is not very good with media communications. You know, they always fail in representing themselves appropriately and representing the truth of what's happening appropriately compared to the media machine that is working on behalf of the bad people. So I think Israel needs to do more work on this level. I think the conferences that are organized from time to time by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is a good thing. But there also should be more outreach in the Arab media, in the international media, in the English media about what's really happening there. For example, I was very happy to see that the New York Times finally, after some 82 days of the war, finally, they decide to speak up about what happened on October 7th and tell the truth and publish this investigation. This should have been published earlier, you know, but I mean, better late than never. But we need more of this. We need more factual reporting about what happened and what's happening in the war. What is Israel's plan for the Israeli and the Palestinian people after the war, and so on.
There's a military war, a media war, as you mentioned. How do you win an ideological war? How do you de-radicalize people who have been brought up since birth to hate Israel, hate Jews, hate America, hate the West?
Oh, that is a very good question. You know, anti-Semitism in the region is at a peak point right now. I thought, like in my generation, which experienced the Arab Spring, we witnessed immediately after the Arab Spring when we started to see that Israel is not actually the enemy, it's the Islamists. We started to experience a decline in the rate of anti-Semitism, especially among the young people of that time. But what's happening now is due to social media, TikTok in particular, that was hijacked again by the Islamists and Hamas supporters and the bad people, this rate of anti-Semitism is going high again. And it's not only, they are not only like using it or fueling the anti-Semitism only by things like Hamas is fighting for the Palestinians and Israel is occupying Palestine or so, but also using Islamic rhetoric, like saying that all Jews must, all Muslims must be in war, in constant war with all Jews till the end of the days. And when the Muslims kill all the Jews, the Messiah will come and you know, the world will be a nice place and things like that. So as crazy as this sounds and completely illogical and completely inhuman, unfortunately, many people adopt these thoughts, these ideologies. So the issue, how to change them, or the question about how to change them is a very difficult one. It requires a huge campaign of de-radicalization in the entire region, and it should be very well coordinated between all the governments in the region. But unfortunately, these governments are not willing to do this now. Big Islamic institutions in the region like Al-Azhar and similar institutions in Saudi Arabia and Iran or so, they are not willing to coordinate on doing this. So I don't think like we will see a change in this anytime soon. But we should keep trying. I mean, I don't want to sound very pessimistic, but we should keep trying.
And what about yourself? What will you keep doing, and how confident are you that you can remain safe whilst doing it?
You know, yes, for me, I will keep doing no matter what, because actually the reason why I was de-radicalized myself, because, you know, I was brought up in Egypt. I grew up in Egypt where anti-Semitism is very high, and also sentiments of Arabism, Arabist ideology of Abdel Nasser, you know, is also very high. So automatically you're born in Egypt with the idea that Israel is our enemy always, you know, and all the Jewish people are our enemies and so on. But actually, as I was growing up, I was exposed to the Israeli culture, to the Jewish culture, to the Jewish people in Egypt and in other countries worldwide. So I started to change my mind. I started to realize that, okay, there is some kind of lies that are happening here about these people. And then I started also to change my mind and become like a more open person, uh, more understanding of our differences and our similarities as well. So I was able to change, and I know this by firsthand. So I think by like continuing to speak about the issue, to speak about Israel, to speak about Israel, I mean, from a political perspective, to speak about the Jewish people from a religious perspective in a good light and in tell the truth about this, and also by keep fighting against the radical Islamists, we will able to make some kind of change on the long run. Whether I would be safe doing this or not, no, of course, I cannot guarantee that because, like, well, at least the radical Islamists now call me an enemy. My own home country is refusing to support me, and on the contrary, they are chasing me. My own home country is chasing me because I said I support Israel. So I don't think like it's a safe job, but I will not stop doing it.